if I do 10 posts on social media and I make 100 cold calls, I can't guarantee and quantify what that result is going to be in 3 weeks. And because of that, I think it presents a challenge to our new producers of, hey, just trust us. This is the system. These are what the winners do every day, every day, every day, every day. And then when someone hits a big account, they go, oh man, how did you do that? It's like, well, a lot of little things over and over and over.
Shift your mindset.
Welcome to the Accelerate Your Insurance Sales podcast.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Guffy Wright, National Sales Leader with Mahoney Group out of Arizona. I'm excited to have this one because, we've done some work together. And when I can see somebody, I can tell in somebody's eyes they have like that it of going out. And as I said to you offline, when you're in the field of play of sales, you're just out to kill people and win some business, which is what I absolutely love. Let's start right there. Child 8 of 9 kids. What was that like?
You had to fight over the meals and everything else. But really what it was like for me is I got to watch my older siblings make good choices, make bad choices, and be very observant. But at the same time, I think where I was slotted 8 of 9, I really just had to be different to get attention from my parents and others. And so from a young age, I had to be different.
Yeah. What's the age gap between you and the oldest?
It's about a 20-year gap.
Wow.
So I don't have any childhood memories of my oldest sibling.
He or she was probably out of the house by then. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's, if you don't mind, share the story again. If we didn't catch it, I asked you offline, how did you get the name Guffy? I actually went to high school with a guy named Guffy. And that's not your real name, but I love the story about how you got the name Guffy.
Yeah, I just turned 3 and I went into my parents' room and said, I don't want to be Jeff anymore. I want to be Guffy. And they kind of looked at me like, yeah, whatever, the world's going to take care of you. And from then on, that's all I've ever known. I mean, from I'm awesome. 3 years old, I spelled my name Jeffrey wrong when I applied for a passport when I was 18. It's just never been my name in my mind, right?
And then for the parents listening, I love how you said it. When your parents, your child 8 of 9, they're like, yeah, whatever, do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. The older siblings always give us a hard time. Like we had no rules and we had finally a little bit of money, when I was growing up. And when they were growing up, they're like, we were poor and we had a million rules. Yeah.
Are you from Arizona?
I am. Yeah. We're 5 generations here.
Oh, wow. That's kind of, I don't want to say it's unheard of, but, we lived in Colorado for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And I always think of the West as being a newer part of the country, obviously, right? So it's rare you see the generation. A lot of people are not from there. So 5 generations in Arizona. Wow, that's awesome. Well, let's dive into it. I want to have you on the podcast because obviously you've had a very successful insurance sales career. We're going to talk about that. Doing a lot of good work here at the Mahoney Group and growing the agency. We're going to talk about the producers you hire. I also want to get into your habits and rituals that make you highly successful. And I just want to dive in right here. If somebody were to go to your LinkedIn profile right now, they would see 10X enthusiast. And their natural inclination might be, oh, this guy's a big Grant Cardone follower. But that's not the case. You actually are referencing the book 10X is easier than 2X, which I absolutely love that book. How has that book impacted you?
So that's been one of the most impactful books for me because I'm big in goal setting. But at the same time, what this helped me do is when you have a large goal, because I kept having only the same book of business for 4 or 5 years and it was driving me crazy. What 10X is easier than 2X helped me do is make a big goal, but then that helps illuminate the path because there may only be 1 or 2 ways to do something incredible. There's 100 ways to do something mediocre or average. And so that's why I've just constantly pushed against the status quo, challenged everything and everybody, and trying to get, I guess, the best out of myself.
Talk about that story, though. I think it's pretty powerful for everybody to hear this. You had mentioned offline that you were stuck at the same revenue for 5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years. The book hovered between $600,000 and $700,000 from 2015 to 2020.
And you had this moment where you realized, okay, if I'm going to scale this thing, I got to start thinking differently here. Walk us through that pivotal, because now you're sitting at a book that's north of 3?
Right around 3.
Which is meaning you've doubled more than once. What was that change going through that process? Where do you think you made the biggest changes, either strategically, mentally, that's allowed you to grow as fast as you have in the last 5 or 6 years?
So the only full-time job I've ever had is the Mahoney Group, and especially in insurance sales. And so I just didn't know what else was out there. I kind of had a problem with my mindset. I didn't know really the value I brought to the table. I didn't know who my ideal client was. I didn't know what was possible. And so I had to change my mindset. I met a lot of people in the industry that had been in the business less time than I was, thought they weren't as good at sales, and they had larger books of business than me. So I couldn't argue. I just looking in the mirror going, I think I'm this, but the facts are the facts, and this is what is happening. I'm stagnant for 5 years in a row. What is my problem? What can I do better? Who do I need to talk to? And so I hired, outside people that were telling me the same thing a lot of the leaders here were telling me, but hearing it from an outside voice did a lot for me because I had only started selling at the Mahoney Group at age 22 and never sold for another insurance agency. And so that helped me make that shift. And then ultimately it came to a point where I wanted to do business from my couch and I wanted to work with growth-minded clients. And I thought, there's only one way to do that, or 2 ways. I got on Zoom before COVID and learned how to do Zoom. And then I only worked with clients that were in growth mode in real estate. They were building or acquiring. And at that time, interest rates were coming down, a lot of people buying, a lot of people building. And that's when the business took off, when I committed to my ideal client and I had a big goal because it was to double in 2 years, go from 700,000 to 1.4 million in 2 years. And I had that big goal. And the only way to do that was through digital sales and being absolutely psychotic on my ideal client.
Well, I think, and that I don't want to lose sight of, because yes, you've picked the niche of real estate and construction. Mm-hmm. But I think more importantly, you really niched down on who these people are between the ears, right? Yeah. You said growth-minded. This is what I want everybody to hear. When you went narrow, mm-hmm. that's when your book expanded. And what was that like for you? Because I'm sure it meant you had to say no a lot. And that's hard for people in our industry. We are in an industry that often tends to just live in a lack mindset. All revenue is good revenue. There's not enough to go around. How was that experience for you going narrow like that? And I love the virtual, before virtual was even a thing, because the way we do business today, you can have clients wherever you want. And I think the more narrow you go, the wider your market gets.
Correct.
What was that feeling like when you made that decision that I'm only going to work with this type of business executive? Were there any fears at first that you were limiting your options?
Well, I was fearful of it. I knew I wanted to do that for a year or two. And what prevented me from doing that was fear. But then I was in such a place where I don't want to say I was broken, but I got to a place where I just thought, this is worse than not growing. And so I was broken down and I said, okay, it's time. And then I learned you'll know what you're committed to by what you say no to.
From the book, 10X is
correct.
2X.
And so then when I said no, I remember a client called and they were 15,000 commission. 15,000 revenue, and a prospect called in. It was a call in even. So even easier to just write up and get done. And I said, today's the day. Passed that to a new guy. And from then on, didn't look back. So I started a revenue threshold of 50 and have grown it from then.
It's interesting you bring that up, man, because I just had my own epiphany a few weeks ago. One of our clients won a broker of the year award on the employee benefits side mm-hmm. by one of the industry periodicals. And when he won, I sat down and I made a list of who are our top clients and what are the characteristic traits, the psychographics that make them a good fit. And then I did the same thing with who are the 5 clients in the last 12 months we probably shouldn't have done business with. Yeah. And what was really interesting is the top 5 all had the same character traits, same psychographics, which I would put you in that. They're competitive as hell. They love to win, students of the game. They're trying to get better in all ways of life, not just as an advisor. And what was interesting, the psychographics of the bottom 5, complete opposite. And even more interesting is 2 of the bottom 5 referred us to 2 of the other bottom feeders. Yeah. But here's what that did for me. The week after I did that exercise, I jumped on 3 calls with prospective clients and told them all no. I told them all, don't invest your money. I don't think it's the right move for you. And being able to do that so confidently is so freeing. And I'm sure that was the same for you when that $15K came in and said, not mine, I'm going to pass it on to my team.
Yep. Totally agree. And you've helped me understand the power of psychographics, because we all look at ideal clients as demographics, revenue threshold, and industry. But between the years, you know, the psychographics part is absolutely important because they allow you to do your best work.
Yeah, 100%. So how did you end up picking real estate and construction as your niches?
So in the early 2000s, we started a proprietary insurance program specifically for apartments. I didn't start working here till 2007. And we were just good at apartments. And when I started, I thought, okay, who's having success? Oh, these people writing apartments, I'll go do that. And that started me doing business out of state mostly because it was very saturated here in Arizona. And from then on, you have a lot of real estate clients that also do construction projects. They may still be a developer or real estate, but they're building these apartments. So that's how I got into the real estate. And then also at the time we had a 1-page application. No Accord apps, no having to gather vehicle information, nothing like that. I could get a 1-page application, write a policy in Texas, and it was a good way to start without knowing very much in the industry.
Well, also, even if you do business in Arizona, there's a good market to be in, I think, to be in construction, real estate, right? Talk to me a little bit about what you guys, the philosophy you have at the Mahoney Group. I really like this. You know, you have producers select major and minor niches when they come to work here at Mahoney. What's the philosophy behind that?
So we developed practice groups that we lean into and want to continue to lead out in. And of those practice groups, when we hire a new person, they meet with all the practice group leaders and they kind of decide what industry they want to go to. So if they meet with our construction practice leader and think, I want to do construction, our real estate practice leader, our human services, our tribal practice leader, healthcare. So they meet with them and then they kind of decide what they're going to go deep in. Pick a major, pick a minor. And then also, we're not naive. They're also going to pick their friends, family, and anyone if they have a Rolodex from previous work. So that's how they help pick their major and their minor. And then they can pivot pretty easily and quickly. Sometimes, you know, people think they love real estate and then they get into it and they're like, wow, these guys I can't do business with these guys. I'd rather do something else. And so you got to be able to pivot, but ultimately when there's a focus, that's going to expand. You know?
Any advice you would give a producer who might be listening to this, who is at that point where they are trying to select a niche?
Yeah, my advice would be, what would you be doing if you weren't in insurance? So what do you like? And then what are the type of people you like to interact with and do business with? And try to figure out that industry niche, because you can change. I mean, I thought I was going to specialize in security guard companies for 6 months. The biggest waste of time. The only bigger waste of time was California printing companies. You know, I did that when I first started. And so, I mean, I have tried to niche in 20 different industries. So it's not like it's, you know, I was born and made for real estate. And I ultimately, after about 12 years in this business, that's when I committed hard and said real estate, construction.
You know, it's funny. In the last 3 years, I've come to realize there really is a niche for anything in this industry. I worked with a producer who is thriving on the benefits side with a veterinarian niche.
Wow.
I have worked with a commercial advisor who he has a team that focuses specifically, and I'm going to say it wrong. I wouldn't even remember how to describe the niche, but it's the niche that does like the birds, the one, you know, the 2-wheel scooters you rent when you're in a city, then you park it somewhere else. Literally, that's their niche. And it's amazing to me. Yeah, you can niche in anything nowadays with as many different products are out there. You gave me a tour of the bullpen when I got here. And it brought back a lot of bad memories of starting my career selling life insurance to orphan policies and getting on the horn and trying to call somebody whose life insurance hasn't had an advisor for 20 years. But you are part of the process of hiring producers on every single year. What are some of the characteristics, some of the traits you're looking for? Think of maybe a younger producer. There's probably two different things. You got the career change or the career hire, and then the newer producer maybe coming out of college. But are there specific character traits you're looking for when you're looking for your next round of producers you're going to bring in at Mahoney?
Oh, definitely. We like people that find us because they know it's a challenge and they know that you can also be successful. But we like people that are willing to take risks, risk takers, people that are confident. We've hired a lot of former athletes that have been really competitive in their previous life, but they don't work out here. Everybody says they're a hard worker. Everybody says they're competitive. Everybody says they're a great teammate. And that's just a big fat lie. They're not. And what ultimately we look for are people with grit and empathy. If you have both of those attributes, we seem to be able to teach you a lot. And everything becomes your teacher because you're just trying to get better. You're trying to get better. You're trying to get better.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't learn that early. I would say it's probably why the first 12 to 13 years of my insurance career was very mediocre. Although I had the grit to make it to pro baseball, I didn't have the grit to sell insurance, probably quite frankly because I didn't like it that much at the beginning. But you're right, grit, that ability to keep getting back up when you get punched in the face, I think is it's a differentiator these days. I don't know what else to say, but consistency. When I look at the best advisors in this industry, what separates them is the consistency and the ability to keep going even when it sucks.
Yeah. Delayed gratification, especially in our business when there's so many unknowns, because we talked about goal setting earlier. I like when I set a goal and I know I can reach it and I think about it every day, but what about doing those things every day and you have no idea what the outcome's going to be? If I do 10 posts on social media and I make 100 cold calls, I can't guarantee and quantify what that result is going to be in 3 weeks. And because of that, I think it presents a challenge to our new producers of, hey, just trust us. This is the system. These are what the winners do every day. And then ultimately, when someone hits a big account, they go, oh man, how did you do that? It's like, well, a lot of little things over and over and over again.
Well, you just mentioned that you have a newer producer that just sold a $100,000 case off a cold call.
I know.
That's grit. That's persistency, right? He probably had a lot of failed cold calls.
He did.
And he kept at it, and look what happened. He caught somebody on the right day, and it turned into a conversation, and it turned into a huge hit of the gong there in the bullpen.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because I think you said something offline that I want to come back to. We're an industry where I think a lot of people actually think too small. Mm-hmm. We are an industry, especially on the health insurance side for sure. You can grow just literally off of renewal increases. You're going to grow 5 to 10%.
And pat yourself on the back.
And then say we're growing organically, right? Yeah. Talk about thinking bigger. What does that mean to you? Because it goes back to even when you grew your book from 600-700 to 3, it required you to change your thinking. And would you agree most people today when they set goals, they actually set them too low?
100%. They set them too low. You asked, what does it mean to me? To me, big dreams, big goals, the challenge, to me, that means everything. We're going to spend a large part of our life working. Why not max it out to the nth degree with relationships, with the people that you work with and for? But yeah, I just like getting after it and trying to be different and challenging the status quo every day.
What did you say to me earlier? There's 2 ways to grow at 10x, and there's 100 different ways to grow at 1x.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's easy.
And that's easy. And, we're a highly compensated group. And so, you have a lot of people making good money, and it's hard to get them to try to achieve more. I think even more important is getting to the truth of like, hey, do you want to grow by 50%? If you don't, that's totally okay. But be honest so we can actually develop a plan around you to help you. Because there's a lot of people, if they're just being honest, man, if I could grow by 5% this year, 10%, oh, that'd be great. Producers worry way more about renewals than they do about 10Xing. And so But I think that's where a lot of the mindset needs to go.
I couldn't agree more, man. I have a business partner, and he's more of a silent partner. And I remember when we got together at the end of the year to start talking about this year, and I told him what our revenue goal was for the year. He said, so what would it take to double that? And the second he said it, I went, that like, what do you mean? Like, how in the hell are we going to do that? But it requires it. The second we started having that conversation, and then I brought that to the team, guess what? The ideas got bigger. Oh, by the way, the things we wanted to do that we probably shouldn't quickly became a no.
Yeah.
And as the book 10X is better is easier than 2X says, it's actually the best way to go 10X is to keep it simple.
You are hitting it all the points.
And so, you mentioned to me that the attrition rate here is about 50%. So when you bring a round of producers in, they go to the bullpen, 50% will probably succeed, 50 probably won't make it. When you look at the two, between a producer who excels and one who you can tell they're not going to make it, do you see some common themes?
Yeah, the ones that I think struggle, they don't enjoy the business, and also they don't do well with not knowing the specific outcome if they put in a specific amount of time. So those are the ones that seem to have the biggest struggle with succeeding, are the ones that just don't enjoy it, and the ones that cannot grind without knowing exactly what the outcome is. The ones that succeed, the highs are super high, and they feel so good when they finally do make a sale, and they love it, and they just want to keep doing it and keep growing, and they're never satisfied, and they constantly learn. Business doesn't exhaust them. Sales doesn't drain them. It gives them fuel. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, would be the difference. Is this business either gives you energy or sucks the life out of you. And whatever that is, that seems to be the biggest differentiator on who succeeds and who doesn't.
This episode is brought to you by True Captive Insurance. What if you could take full control of your healthcare strategy without the financial burdens of traditional insurance? At True Captive Insurance, they make that possible. As the only captive in the nation that puts up the majority of collateral on your behalf, they provide financial flexibility from day one, making them an advocating partner for their customer success. True Captive's fully customizable plans and cost-saving strategies ensure you never have to choose between affordability and quality care. It's time to break free from the limitations of conventional insurance. Take the next step today. Visit truecaptive.com and discover a smarter way to manage healthcare. That is truecaptive.com. Well, and I think, what I love about the fact you just said that, and I go back to my own experience selling. I'm 5 times the salesperson I am even running this business than I probably was selling insurance, especially when it's now my butt on the line. It's my company, mm-hmm. right? But it's almost like prospecting is this puzzle you're trying to put together. Yeah. And I think one of the shifts I made years ago that made me better at sales was realizing it's not my prospect's job to get back to me. It's not their job to answer the phone or respond to an email. I've got to play the game to figure out how I'm going to get their attention, right? And I think that's important, and it's that delayed gratification. Knowing that, I think the most successful people think in years, not weeks or days. Mm-hmm. And
I totally agree.
And so when you look at your business, was there a moment when if you could go back, I know you've been at Mahoney quite a while now, but was there a moment you can specifically remember at all where you're like, I can do this, like that, aha, this, I think I have what it takes to succeed in this game?
Yeah. So it would have been my first full year. I had just sold one of my largest real estate accounts at the time, and it was $25,000 in revenue. And I thought, if I can do this, and I can do it once, why can't I do this over and over and over and over? And at 25 revenue a piece, it doesn't take that long to have a nice book of business. And so I would say it was in 2008 when I sold kind of my first. At the time, it was a larger account for me, and from then on, man, I just was like, wow, I can do this. I remember when I first started looking at people putting up crazy numbers and thought, this is impossible. How in the world am I ever going to do this? That's impossible. And then just over time, you have a couple of these wins that help propel you and give you the confidence you need to just go out and dominate.
Yeah, I those numbers can appear impossible to achieve at the beginning, and then it's amazing when you look back and you go, I don't know how I got here, but somehow I got here and I did it. And I want to bring something back you said earlier, because I think a lot of people would think it's an arrogant statement, but I don't. I think it's just a competitive statement. We've all been there. And if you've been in this industry for any amount of time, you've compared yourself to somebody else who has a much bigger book.
Especially if you're in sales.
Especially if you're a guy and you're in sales. And you're like, really? How in the heck do they have that book and I have this? And I am just as freaking good, if not better than them, right? We've all had that thought.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
What would you say, one thing I wanted to ask you is you are at a point, we talked about where your book's at today. You're doing an amazing job building brand awareness now. When did you hit that point, or did you hit that point, I guess, where your book had grown, service requirements where you're like, okay, what got me here won't get me there. I can't just go make more calls and send out more emails. I've got to have something different. What is that brand awareness? I mean, you pump out a lot of videos on LinkedIn. How has that helped you continue to scale your book?
Well, it's helped because you're only going to put something out there that you believe in. And what it helps is give you clarity of what you're trying to accomplish. And so that's why I really like the social media stuff and the brand awareness, is because it helps give you clarity on who your ideal client is and who you're trying to reach. And that increases your commitment to that person even more. I know we talked once a couple months ago about it's not who you know, but it's who knows you. Mm-hmm. That was really crucial, because as you get to a point where I can't spend 10 hours a week cold calling or going to networks or going to board meetings, or something has to give, right? And so that's why the brand awareness, it's like, well, I need to cast a wider net, but I need to go deeper on a bigger fish. And so that's why the brand awareness for me is crucial, because it helps provide clarity and it helps continue to prospect when you're in your sleep, which is what I want to do.
Yeah, and I want to commend you. I think you do a great job when you come on. You talk to your ideal prospect, right? You come on, you record a video about what's going on in the real estate world, the construction world, and I think that's why you're doing such an effective job. You don't get caught up in what I call the dopamine trap of I'm going to post so peers will hit the like and the comment buttons for me. And I know I've received text messages from you saying, dude, I was skiing and I got a text or I got a DM from somebody on LinkedIn that wants to meet. So it works, right?
Yeah, it does.
Let's get to know Guffy a little bit here. So who are when you look back at your career, you've been with Mahoney, about 18 years now?
Yeah, that's right.
Who are some of the mentors along the way, whether you've ever met them or not? Because sometimes, mentors can be people who are dead. Who are some of the mentors that have had a big impact on your career?
So the biggest, I would say, would be my dad. He grew a privately held marketing agency into the largest in Arizona. Wow. So I grew up kind of in the marketing family. And he taught me really about people and about how, whether they're a multimillionaire or not, they're still people and they care about the same things. And so he helped me with that a lot. But he was always the most excited when I'd get a win. I could call him and be like, "Hey, Dad, we sold this and that." And he was always so excited. So he was my first cheerleader. The second is there's people here at the Mahoney Group that have really helped me. One is Jeff Arnett, who's the director of our mentorship. He's really helped me. Our chairman of our board, Dave Camard, and our current CEO, Brad Rucker. They challenge me. They correct me when I need correction, and even sometimes when I think I don't. But they've been very influential in my development here. I look at other people in the industry. There's Charles Speck, there's Larry Linney. And there's just a lot of really good thought leaders that have helped lead my thoughts to challenge the status quo and to ultimately try to do something different and in a faster, more efficient way that benefits our clients and our people.
Who are you following on social media these days, outside of the industry maybe?
So outside of the industry, I follow, the normal, there's the Wall Street Journal that I really like to read a lot of that stuff. As far as leadership, we have already mentioned Dr. Benjamin Hardy enough. And
if you haven't read the book, 10X is easier than 2X, go read it today.
Yeah. That one is a good one for me that So I follow all their stuff. And there's a guy named Dr. Alan Bernard who talks a lot about Antifragile, what that means, and how to, no matter what the circumstances are, good, bad, different, you can win. You become anti-fragile. I really like his stuff. I follow him. And then, there's a few more that I can't really think of off the top of my head.
Any books you're reading right now?
So I'm waiting for for Ben Hardy to release his new one, The Science of Scaling. But I just finished Catching the Bigger Fish. And it's really just about going deep and how you, at the beginning, it's harder. But then as soon as you catch the big fish, you're like, why would I ever go back? And go back and try to catch the small one. So I really like Catching a Bigger Fish. I just finished that one. I just did a biography of Napoleon, super interesting dude. I think he's got a lot of similarities to our current president, pros and cons. And that was just fascinating. And so I kind of like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I've always find it fascinating, good or bad, meaning how they went about it. People who are almost able to take over the world.
I know, it's unbelievable.
And Napoleon being one of them. I've listened to certain podcasts recently talk about Genghis Khan. Now, depending on some people say his real name is actually Genghis Khan, but the fact that he, like in the Far East, his bloodlines might be as big as 10 to 20% of the people. Like it just blows me away how one person can have that kind of impact, good or bad. What about habits, rituals? What are some of the things that drive you on a daily basis?
Yeah. So, my rituals is I wake up in the morning early, and when my feet hit the ground, I say, today's going to be a great day every day. That's the first thing I do. And to try to set the tone. And then I, take my pre-workout and, go into the garage gym and work out. And that's when I listen to, a lot of the podcasts I listen to and try to get my mind right and try to constantly just find little advantages here and there and think about prospects and clients and team members. And then after that, come into work. And so that's my daily ritual there. Then when I come into work, I write I have my goals that I look at, quarterly goals. And then
by the way, you look at those every day?
I look at them every day.
Take note, people.
Yeah, I look at them every day. And then I write down the 25 things or however it is, the 10 things that I need to get done that day. And I start with the hardest first, the thing I don't want to do.
Eat the frog.
And then from there, it frees me up to do what I really like to do, which is go hunt new business.
I love, so home gym in the garage.
Yeah.
What's your pre-workout of choice?
Voodoo Dust.
Who makes that?
I don't know. Is there a good name for pre-workout?
That is.
What are they like? Bucked up and everything. I don't know. What would you name? What would the Andy social media pre-workout be named?
Yeah, that get seen.
Brand buster. What are we doing?
What was I going to ask you?
Sorry, Brand Buster got you off track.
What about hobbies, man? Anything when you're not working? What do you like to do?
Yeah, well, love to spend time with family for sure. We do a lot of boating, so love to do some surfing.
Where does one find water in the greater Phoenix area?
There's a lot of close lakes close by, 20, 30 minutes away. Sorrel Lake, Canyon Lake, Roosevelt Lake. Then the big one is Lake Powell. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Lake Powell.
Yeah.
That's the big one where, our family goes a couple times a year, and it's just a really, really unique, cool place. So if you've ever thought about going to Lake Powell or going, you should definitely go. I enjoy fly fishing. The challenge of constantly trying to present the fake bug is real.
It's a fish. Game. It is definitely a science.
Yes, I really, really I do like things that are a science and an art, kind of combined there. I enjoy learning a lot. So if I'm by myself, I typically want to learn something new that interests me, whether it's about history or something like that. So that would be my rituals and things that I enjoy doing. I like coaching my kids in their baseball and their, different stuff they do. So, doing things in the community.
But that's why when I talked about our ideal client, you fall right into that category, because what I see from the best advisors today is they're competitive. We talked about that. You got that killer instinct when you're inside the lines, but you're a constant learner. And it's not just how do I become a better advisor. It's how do I become a better dad, better husband, health.
Yeah.
Always, right? Not just your profession. And I think you are somebody who is probably seeking challenges that fuels you.
Yeah, I would agree. And those are the people we're looking to hire. So when they come to me and say, hey, I want to come to the Mahoney Group and I say, hey, you're probably not going to make it. It's really hard. You're not going to, you're going to have to work harder than you want. You don't even know that much about the industry. And so I challenge them hard. And for some reason, some people really, really like that. And the ones that really, really like it, those are the ones we hire.
I like that. Good reverse psychology.
Yeah. But it helps keep the people away too that are just looking for a job.
Oh, absolutely. We see it all the time. And I bring it back to something you said earlier. I think one thing that separates you from the pack is you invest the time and money or whatever into things that don't have a guaranteed result. Even if it's the action of I'm going to block an hour to make some phone calls, you know that doesn't mean there's going to be any kind of guaranteed result, but you're going to keep doing that day after day after day. I can tell when somebody reaches out to us for help, based on the way they talk to me about how they want to do this. I'm going to see if my boss will invest for me. I'll see. I can, or they'll even ask, what are the guarantees? Mm-hmm. I know they're not a good fit. Yeah. Because if you're already looking for a guarantee before you even start, that means you don't trust your ability.
Totally agree.
And you said it earlier. You know, everything I do has no guaranteed return, but I'm going to do it because I know if I do it long enough over a certain period of time, I'm going to win.
Yeah, I think trust your instincts on that. Like I struggled with that at the beginning. I was good at goal setting and reaching goals, but I was terrible at doing things and just trusting the process or trusting that something good is going to happen. You know, you may not be in the niche you're trying to do, but if you never pick a niche, you're certainly never going to be, you know, in a niche. So you really have to put yourself out there and know if you put in the time, especially in insurance, excellent things are going to happen to you, for you, and with you.
Well, and I think you just nailed it on the head. The secret to success is action, consistent action. Okay. Without any returns, just take action. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to become successful, it's never coming. It's
like you'll just be at the line at the MVD forever.
Where do you see the industry going in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we're finally moving fast as an industry for the first time in at least my career. I think an easy one is, you know, those that, I don't think AI is going to replace the advisor, but I think those that use AI will replace the ones that don't. And so advice is going to be key, but also simplifying things around you. So AI is going to play a huge role. I think it's going to disrupt the carriers, probably even more than the retail agencies. So small business is probably going to get whacked. Yep. You got to go after bigger stuff and make sure you're giving great and excellent advice. You are leading people's thoughts. You're leading your clients' thoughts.
Hence the term thought leader.
Hence the term thought leader that you coined. You know, hey, you're leading. I'm like, oh, what's thought leadership? And Andy goes, it's leading people's thoughts. And I go, well, yeah, that's too easy, but you're totally right. Yeah, so leading people's thoughts. So I'm not hyperventilating over AI. I think it's fantastic. I think it creates opportunity. What I do hyperventilate over is not who's imitating me, who can out innovate me.
Yep.
And
Same here, man.
So I think innovation is crucial. I'm not worried about people imitating or doing what we're doing. I'm worried about other people I don't know about out innovating the Mahoney Group and out innovating our new people. And so where do I think the industry's going? Heavy innovation. Yep. For sure.
I agree. Innovation. I think the big thing with AI, I was just having this conversation with my fiance yesterday. We're building a lot of AI into our membership site right now. And it is going to replace certain jobs in this industry, I think. But I think what's going to happen is I think a lot of people are going to over-index into it so hard, they're going to lose that wow factor they create for their clients. And I think there's nothing that will create a wow factor like the human touch. Okay. So use AI as much as you can to automate the mundane, but I really think the ones who understand now is also the time to go in on the human touch to create that wow experience. I think they'll leave everybody else in the dust.
I agree. And so let me ask you a question on the human touch. Do you think digital sales is here to stay? Zoom, Teams, and that's going to be heavy? Or do you think in-person is, hey, let's go back to in-person and let's go back handshake, old school? Or what are your thoughts?
I think people will crave that as we get farther away from in-person, but I still think people want convenience. And I think your ability to still create build a good relationship, even in a virtual setting, will be important. But that also, personally, I think that excites me. Look what you're experiencing. You leaned into it before it was even a thing in our industry. And what did it do? It probably expanded your market. That's the biggest opportunity today is if you get the attention of a real estate company in Wisconsin, they don't care you're down in Arizona.
No, their lender is in New York.
If you're the guy that understands what they have and it's obvious you're a thought leader in that space, they could care less where you are located.
And it accelerates the sales process too.
Yes.
I think I agree with you. I like to do business over Zoom, and I like to have that in-person relationship and not even talk business in person.
100%.
And I think the advisors that know how to accelerate sales, be a thought leader, onboard a new client digitally, and that also know how to and feel comfortable, going deep with a client in a very intellectual and business type level and personal level. It's going to be hard to peel business away from those advisors.
I think that the key piece to that, though, is whether you decide to do it virtually or in person, the number one thing you have to do today to win is make it easy for people to hire you. And I think the thing it comes down to is processes. Do you have the processes to make it easy for me to hire you? I don't care if it's digital. I don't care if it's in person, whatever it is. If you make it easy for me to do business with you, there's a good chance I'm going to do business with you. And I know that sounds obvious, but Guffy, you'd be surprised how many agencies make it hard for people to hire them. Because their process is so convoluted, or there is no process.
Yeah.
And by the time I become a client, I'm already frustrated because there were no expectations set. I have no idea what it's going to be like to work with you. The onboarding process was all over the place. It's the processes of how you make it easy to do business for you. That is, to me, the secret sauce of building a relationship with you and creating that wow factor, which makes sure not only am I never going to leave you, but I'm going to start referring my friends to you.
Removing roadblocks in every aspect is crucial. I totally agree.
Well, hey, man, this was an awesome conversation.
I learned a lot, I hope.
Yeah, likewise. No, you're one of my favorites, man. How can people, if somebody's listening and they just want to reach out, and I hate to use this, I'm saying it, but as I say it, don't do this, pick your brain, because I think whenever I hear the phrase pick your brain, what they're doing is picking your wallet. But how can people reach out to you? If they really like your story, want to connect with you, what's the easiest way to do that?
I think LinkedIn's the easiest way to find me.
Definitely go watch your videos.
Yes, go watch the videos, but go on LinkedIn and send me a message. Happy to help out in any way. And I love working with people that want to improve. So a lot of people have helped me. And definitely there's a lot I can learn from everybody out there.
That's why I love working with you, man. You're a continuous learner. Guffy Wright, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Be good. That's all we got for this episode of the Accelerate Your Insurance Sales Podcast. One of the most valuable things you can do to help us and other new potential listeners find our show is for you to rate the show and leave a review. So as a special bonus for you, if you leave us a review, take a screenshot of your review and send it to me as a DM to my LinkedIn profile. I will send you a free copy of our LinkedIn Diamond Playbook, our proven 4-step strategy to grow your business on LinkedIn. So go right now, leave us a review, screenshot it, and send me a DM on LinkedIn. Also, please share this podcast with anyone you think would enjoy it. That's it for now.